You're watching Plants and Politics with Gina Bonanno-Lemos. If you're ready to hear the truth about both sides of the aisle, what's really going on in America, and how big money interests prevent change to keep you sick, broke, and desperate, then play on. Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. This is Gina. So had an interview today, so I am coming to you live, or not live, I'm always live, but on camera. One thing I want to talk about today is something that's really pissing me off, and it's time for Democrats to wake up, okay? It's time for liberals in particular to wake up, because there's this myth, I think, that liberals believe that Democrats, establishment Democrats more particularly, are different than Republicans. So I'm going to get to that in a minute. But basically what I want to talk about today is that our government right now is failing us. They are failing us on every level, and everyone across the board, with the exception of some progressives. So recently, they proposed a $740 million military budget, okay? In the midst of a global pandemic, they proposed this military budget. At the same time, they're proposing cuts to the extra $600 weekly unemployment benefit. They want to cut it to like $200 a week. Now, understand, for people who maybe don't know, maybe they've never been on unemployment, or people watching who are in other countries, right now as it exists, unemployment benefits don't pay you your entire paycheck. They don't cover your full pay. It gives you about roughly 45% of what you were making. Now, keep in mind, most people were living paycheck to paycheck with a full paycheck. Most people couldn't even afford a $400 emergency if one arose. And now they're trying to survive on 45% of that original income. So many people needed that extra $600 to make up their lost wages, to keep them whole, and to keep them making their payments and able to put food on the table and keep a roof over their head. But you've got these idiot lawmakers like Ted Cruz and others out there who claim that people aren't going back to work. Oh, if we keep giving them this extra money, which is not extra, it's making them whole. But they claim that it's making them lazy and they just don't want to go back to work. No, that's not the truth. So before I get into why they're so full of shit and why this is not true, I'm going to play a video for you with a snapshot of just a few Republican lawmakers who are just so off the mark, and not just lawmakers, you got Steve Mnuchin in here as well, just so out of touch with the average American. It's unbelievable. So take a look.
Half the Republicans are going to vote no to any Phase 4 package. That's just a fact. And a lot of Democrats are going to insist on $3 trillion, which would be way too much. It would be wasted money.
Where we were in emergency last time, so we instituted this quickly. And in certain cases, people were paid more to stay home than they were to work.
In terms of the unemployment benefits, do you object to providing any kind or any amount of federal boost to unemployment at this point? Because not everyone is choosing to be out of work.
The policy that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats are pushing adds an additional $600 a week of federal money to unemployment. We have the unemployment system.
Right, and McConnell wants to take it down to 70% of prior wages.
The problem is, for 68% of people receiving it right now, they are being paid more on unemployment than they made in their job. And I'll tell you, I've spoken to small business owners all over the state of Texas who are trying to reopen, and they're calling their waiters and waitresses, they're calling their busboys, and they won't come back. And of course they won't come back, because the federal government is paying, in some instances, twice as much money to stay home.
So it's unreal how they literally just don't have a clue how average people live. You know, I was broke once. As I like to say, I was so broke. I was B-R-O-K, couldn't even afford the vowel to buy the E. I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, to pray that you don't get a flat tire, to have holes in your underwear because you can't afford to buy new ones. I get it. Americans need help right now, but our lawmakers are more interested in appeasing their corporate masters. And that is the God's honest truth. So I want to share a few things with you guys. And here's the thing. As I digress. I go back to how I know that these people are full of it. So one of our girls was just recently called back to work. She was working in management at a store. She'd been promoted just not too long before the COVID crisis hit. And she was called back in finally this week after months of the store being shut down due to COVID. They started reaching out to their employees to say, hey, we're reopening, we're bringing people back. Many of the employees had moved. Many of them moved to other places because they could no longer afford the rent. They had moved back home with parents. Many of them were young kids, and the parents said, no, you're not going back to work because we don't want you to bring home the virus. That's the truth about some of these people, okay? People are scared. People are terrified that they're going to contract a life-threatening disease. But there are other people who don't have a choice, older people who have to go to work. And here's how we know that these lawmakers are full of it. Because you literally can't say, I decline your invitation to come back to work. If you do, your unemployment benefits can get cut off. If your employer reports that to the unemployment department, you are cut off. You are no longer eligible to receive unemployment benefits if you refuse work. So that's how we know that all of these lawmakers claiming that people are just being lazy and they don't want to go back to work. No. And this is so unnecessary. As I've said in other podcasts and videos, this is totally unnecessary. If we had just followed models like Germany or Japan, where almost every single one of their people wore masks, they were shut down for only 2 months. They had less than 1,000 COVID deaths with a very elderly population. So this is completely unnecessary. And I blame Trump. I absolutely blame Trump for making the mask a political issue rather than a safety and health issue, as it should have been. But where do the Democrats? So first of all, let me just say, this is why it's pissing me off, okay? Before the pandemic, millions of Americans were living paycheck to paycheck. Millions of Americans could not afford that $400 emergency. And now you want to cut what little they have that's keeping them afloat during this time. The Urban Institute has said that extra $600 a week was literally the only thing standing between millions of Americans. We now have an estimated approximately 30% of Americans who either couldn't make any rent or mortgage payment at the beginning of July because their income has been drastically cut, or they had to make a partial payment only. They've also lost their health insurance. They also can't afford medications that they need. They can't afford COVID treatment because our government is so inept and so selfish and so beholden to corporate interests that they absolutely will not give in and cover COVID treatment. For Christ's sakes, they won't implement Medicare for all. Why? Because most of our lawmakers get so much of their goddamn money, so much of their blood money, literally, from the insurance industry, including Joe Biden. So again, this isn't just a Republican issue, but God knows they carry a lot of this. They have blood on their hands, but Democrats do as well. So just recently, it was reported on Secular Talk and a few other, in The Hill and a few other places. You're not going to hear this in mainstream media, but this military budget was not only being looked at seriously to re-up, to approve for this massive $740 billion budget. Hey, not only are they looking to do that at a time when people in America can't pay their bills, but Bernie Sanders proposed a 10% cut to the Pentagon budget. Just 10%, which I think is way too low, way too low. And yet Democrats, by and large, voted against it. By and large, Democrats, establishment Democrats, voted against Bernie Sanders' proposal for that 10% cut. Really? Really? Don't tell me that there's a huge difference between establishment Democrats and Republicans. They all bow to the same corporate masters and to the same military-industrial complex. There's no difference. Establishment Democrats are just Republican-like candidates. They go along with the social issues, they go along with gay marriage, they go along with all the things that don't make that big of a difference in the lives of average Americans who are struggling to get by. Now, I'm not saying that, gay marriage and LGBTQ rights or things like that aren't important. They are. But as far as the financial matters go and equality and making things better for everyone in this country so that they can put food on the table and keep a roof over their head, they are no different than Republicans. So here's why. So Kyle Kulinski, as I mentioned from Secular Talk, he reported, and I forget where he found this, I think it was on Twitter, somebody posted, but the Dems who voted against Bernie Sanders' cut, on average, received over $211,000 from the defense industry. And I believe that was just this year alone. Until we get money out of politics, nothing's going to change. Nothing, they're not going to care. They don't give a damn about you and I. They don't care about average Americans. They only care about corporate interests. And this is across the board. And this is why I say, if you believe that Democrats, all of them, are the good guys, and that only Republicans are the ones catering to corporate interests, you're not paying attention. I used to be you. I used to think that. So liberals, wake up. We need to hold these people accountable. This is why we need to primary every establishment Democrat. Every Democrat that was on that list that voted against Bernie Sanders' 10% cut needs to be primaried. They need to be out of there. And some of them were liberal heroes. Dianne Feinstein, Michael Bennet, many people on that list that I was pretty shocked to see, but they all need to go. They need to go. That's it. So anyway, guys, you know, I have hope that we can change this, but when we have our own people on our own side of the aisle fighting us, it's an uphill battle. It makes it so much harder. So we got to wipe them out. We got to take them down. Got to get rid of the Republicans and the establishment Democrats. So just my opinion, but as I always say, I think I'm right. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. As always, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will come back with some more rants and raves for you. All right. Take care, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching Plants and Politics. The only way to take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks again.